Welcome to the Women and Money Empowerment Show. My name is Yulin Lee, and I am your host. In these episodes, you will hear my heart-to-heart conversations with women from all walks of life, sharing their wisdom and their journey to success. I hope through these stories, you will find inspirations and affirmation that ordinary people like you and me, we can achieve extraordinary results and live an extraordinary life. Now, let's dive into today's show. Welcome, Ericka. Thank you so much for agreeing to come onto this Women and Money Empowerment Show. I am so excited to have this conversation with you. Very briefly, everyone, in our audience, I wanted to introduce Ericka here. She is an executive coach, but her life experience is so much more than just the executive coaching. And so I am going to have Ericka to give us an introduction first. In your own words, who is Ericka?
Oh, thank you, Yulin, and for your audience. Hello, everyone. Yes, I am an executive coach. I've been coaching since 2017. But when I share my background of who I am as a person, three things. One, I was able to serve in the Air Force for 32 and a half years. And in that capacity, I was active duty, reserve, and I got to be a command chief master sergeant, which is pretty awesome, for a major command in the Air Force, which is yay. And I also had a civilian life, which allowed me to be law enforcement. So I was a special agent, criminal investigator is what it's called. And I served in law enforcement for 27 years. I worked human smuggling cases.
Wow.
I worked a lot of human trafficking cases. And then the third piece that I would love to share with you and with your audience is that I for many, many years, I was a single mom. Well, I am still a single mom. It's just that my boys, my two sons are grown up, and now they're my business partners and they're helping me. But life is just amazing. It's just a bunch of little stories that make us who we are today.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And definitely I want to kind of, for each of those pieces that you just mentioned, I wanted to kind of peel apart a little bit more just for us to get a better understanding, because I think in those stories, there could be a lot of inspirations and a lot of lessons that we can all learn from.
Oh, sure.
So I think I heard you speak before that you and I will probably share another thing in common, which is I think we're both immigrants, right? So tell us about your immigrant story, and how old were you and what was that experience like for you?
Yes, of course. Well, this is going back to me, and this is very foundational, very foundational. This is me being 5 years old, being the oldest of three. My brothers were 4 and 3. And living in Guatemala, Central America, very poor, food once in a while, and being happy. I want people to hear my story, but not to, oh, poor Ericka. No, I'm telling my story from a posture of empowerment. We were poor, but I was not unhappy. Things did change, though, when my mother decided to walk away from us. And when she did that, she put the three of us in the decrepit little shack that we lived in, shoved us in, closed the door from the outside, and left.
Wow.
So something that was safe 5 minutes ago now was a trap. And we were in that room, Yulin. We had a little bit of water, no food. We were there for 7 days.
Wow.
Before my grandmother came and rescued us. And sometimes when I tell that story, the shack, I knew that it was day or night because the shack had little holes, and during the day light, that the light would come in.
There was no window.
Nothing. It was just a muggy, humid, ugly place. And when my grandmother came and rescued us, I remember that because you're so used to the darkness, I
Yeah.
remember when the door opened, all that light just coming in the room. And I know I didn't move, but I felt the light just moving me back. Like,
Mhm.
wow. Mhm. Our grandmother rescued us. We, from the age of 5 to the age of 12, we just moved to another little shack. That was my grandmother's. At the age of 12, Yulin, my mother who left had come to the United States, came back after surviving an earthquake, we surviving an earthquake in Guatemala. She saw the conditions that we lived in, and right there and then said, I'm taking you to the United States. And the way that we came to the United States, Yulene, I wasn't 12.
Right.
And so here I am with a strange woman, a woman that I really don't like because she left us.
Right.
Now she's bringing us to another country with another language, with another culture, with different customs and my brothers, but pulling me away from that happiness that I was telling you about,
Mhm, mhm,
right? Like literally pulling me away from my grandmother.
mhm.
And we ended up walking. It's someone told me that it's about 1,500 miles that we
Wow.
walked from Guatemala to the United States to get here.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. And I'm so glad you brought up and you really highlighted the key point here is that the external circumstances, were not the greatest, but deep down you were happy. You were happy with your grandmother. You were happy, as a child, as a little child before, your mom left you guys. And that is also something that I always share with my clients and my audiences too, is that, I also came to the US when I was 13 and not did not go through the level of traumatic experience that you did. But on the financial side, as most immigrants back then, in 1981, that coming from China, there was nothing. Like my parents came here with literally nothing, and they had to start from literally, ground zero to build our life up. And so it was, for me, I never had money really until I started with my real job, right? But I never felt poor. And that was the distinction that I usually like to, help people see, from a money's perspective, is that, and that was the idea that my parents instilled us too. It was like, yeah, we're broke right now. That's the circumstance. But I'm not poor from a psychological and emotional perspective. Like I didn't feel poor, even though we didn't have money. And I think it really the essence is the same as what you just described, that the external conditions weren't great, but you were happy as a child, deep down with your life circumstances. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. But that is so amazing what you had to go through. And I'm sure, we can spend a whole hour, just talking about, that journey in itself. But I also really like to hear like how did you get into the Air Force and then just being a woman and I haven't met you in person, but I think my impression from when I hear from you the other day, you're not physically like big, right? Are you petite or are you big? I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, if I was to describe me, I am 5'2", and if I have heels, I'm 5'4" or 5'5". And I'm about 110. So my frame is not, if you think, again, my background, law enforcement and military, right?
Yeah.
So when you think of law enforcement, you're not picturing me.
Right, right. And that's exactly my point, because I'm also 5'2", right? And so when you talk about Air Force, when I first time heard it, and again, my self-image, right? I'm thinking, I would have never considered myself going into the Air Force because again, the whether it's the stereotyping or whether it's just kind of the conditioning, like that's a men's world. So how did you get into this men's world and became a commanding chief?
Yes. Okay. I got to go back a little bit.
Okay.
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 Because my mindset, very similar to yours, right? Okay, I'm here right now, but that doesn't mean that I need to stay here, right? Where did that come from? I don't know, but I had it. I
Mhm.
had it in me. Not my mother, Yulin.
Mm.
So when she brought us to the United States, the biggest dream that she had for me as her daughter was for me to be a maid.
Mm.
And at the time, we lived in Las Vegas. So she worked at this really horrible, not a hotel, but a motel that
Mhm.
tells you everything. And I started working very young, 13. Mm. And I was working with her, cleaning rooms, knocking on doors, housekeeping.
Mhm.
But I always thought, this is just right now. I need in this country, I need to learn the language and I need to educate myself. And I know those two things are going to be the ticket for me to get out of this condition.
Mhm.
When
Mhm.
I share that dream with my mother,
Mhm.
she didn't have the awareness, Yulene.
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
had a second grade education. I'm not criticizing my mom.
Mhm.
I'm just letting you know. And obviously,
That
your
was what it is. Yeah.
she didn't have the awareness. She couldn't see it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So sometimes I talk about people that obstruct our way, right? Who
Mhm.
are your obstructors?
Mhm.
Well, my mom, my
Mhm.
mom,
Mhm.
stay in your place, know your place. What are you doing? This is safe. This is good. It's an honest job. We're good. Why are you shaking
Mhm.
this environment? And I'm like, I'm not shaking it. I just know that there's something else much bigger,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And I said, Mom, why do I need to be a maid? Can I? What about if I want to stay at Caesar's Palace?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then for years later, of course, inviting my mom,
Mhm.
right? Calling my mom and saying, Hey, I'm in Vegas and I'm at Caesar's Palace. Come and check out my room.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pretty awesome cycle. But going back to your question about the military, I saw the military as an opportunity.
Mhm.
Yes, very much male dominated. I mean, my English, my goodness, I was, how you're looking for the file because you can't find the word to say. So English was poor, small frame, male dominated, uniform, completely new. But Yulene, I just knew that it would change my life. And I remember being that first night when all the other ladies with me are crying. I remember crying too, but I wasn't crying because I made a mistake. I wasn't crying because I'm asking myself, what am I doing in this room? Mm-mm. Those silent tears that were rolling down, I'm staring at a metal tiny little bed, right? Chaos going on all over. And I'm thinking, God.
Mhm.
I'm thanking God because the Air Force gave me a chance. The Air Force said yes to me,
Mhm.
right? All that baggage that sometimes we carry. I was abandoned. I wasn't worthy, no value in the United States. I didn't want to talk because of my accent. I didn't want to go in that room because people would criticize. I can have this long list of things that I told myself.
Right? Mhm.
And just being there that one night, I was able to conquer all those things.
Mm. So what was that one thing? Was it the faith in God or the gratitude, appreciation? Because you said I was thinking God. Can you elaborate that?
Yes. And the thanking God one was that the Air Force was giving me a chance when, that imposter syndrome. It's like
Mhm.
they're giving me a chance, and I don't know if I should be here or not. But
Mhm.
number two, Yulene, I was coming from an environment where there was not a lot of mentorship. There was not a lot of good proximity to good people. I was coming from a very violent, very toxic environment.
Mhm.
I did not go into the Air Force right after high school, 17, 18. I was 22. And when I say toxic and violent, I was a 22 young female trying desperately to survive, already married, Yulin.
Mm.
And that toxic, that violent environment was with, remember my background. I have no modeling of what good looks like.
Right, right.
The landing on my face just kept repeating, even though inside of me I wanted something better.
Mhm.
You know, those self-limiting beliefs put you in places where you shouldn't be. So yes, that night I'm grateful that I am separated from that violence, that I'm separated from that toxic environment, and that the Air Force sees potential enough in me to give me a chance.
So thank you so much for sharing that, because it sounds like you also had to get out of a toxic marriage. And that is also so relevant for many women,
Yes.
in that there are many women out there. I'm not here to promote divorce, but I also see that there are so many women feel they're stuck and be stuck in a marriage that they know that's not good for them, whether it's mentally, physically, but they are just too afraid to break away. And part of that fear is the financial piece, right? Is when they break away, they may not be able to live on their own, make it on their own financially, because he's providing it for her. And so can you discuss a little bit about, what did it feel like? And at the end, what gave you that courage to say, no more, I'm joining the Air Force? What was that last thing that pushed
Oh
you?
my
Because for a lot of women, the idea of, I want to get out of here, it's there. But what is it that actually pushed you over the edge to say, I'm going to take action, and I'm going to do it?
It's your question, Yulin, is so interesting because I have literally, as you're saying it and as you're asking, my brain is like, yes, 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 yes. The finances piece of me. Okay, so picture this. I'm 16 years old, wanting to finish high school, and I have a mom that says, I want you to work and quit school. So if you don't quit school, you're out of the house. So here I am, 16 years old, in the streets of Las Vegas, homeless, where I then meet a 32-year-old man that I see as my savior, as my protector, as someone that's going to give me the shelter that I have never had in my life.
Right, right.
So yes, so that conditioning of you can't do anything without me. No one wants you. Remember, no one wants you. Only I want you. In the cycle of you made me do that. I apologize, but you made me do it. So don't do it again.
Right.
So I was in that relationship for 10 years.
No.
10 years wanting to leave. And what pulled me back to the center? Because I would get to the edge. I'm leaving because of my safety. And what would pull me back? You can't afford it. The shame of what would people say. The not really, I mean, everything was dark, Yulin. And I couldn't see a window or a door. I was back in that shack. And what I was waiting for was for someone to rescue me. I did not, at that time, I did not have the concept of me having a choice. I don't know if it makes sense or not.
Yeah, it totally makes sense, because
I was waiting for someone to open that door and say, here, come out. And so this is what happened. This is what happened. One day, my beloved ex-husband is beating me. Okay. And I am able to get away from him. I'm able to leave the apartment that we lived in. And I'm holding on to the little clothes I have. and I'm running, and I'm running through an alleyway. And in the alleyway, I see people looking down as I'm running. I'm kind of like, people are watching me run. And as I look up, the police lights, right? A police officer, an angel in my life, police officer comes out of his patrol car, takes his jacket off, puts it on me, and like a dad, he's holding onto the jacket, and then he pulls me in a little bit. And then he says, Ericka, if you don't do something to take care of you, we're going to find your dead body out in the desert. And let's go of me. And that was the seed that I needed to hear. If you don't do something, and it just kept repeating and repeating and repeating. What do you mean if I don't do something? I have a choice about my conditions. I have a choice about what's going to happen to me. I don't know who that gentleman was. I do know that he was an angel in my life because of him, my conscious sent the message, right, to the subconscious, where I could see the possibility of getting out and walking forward and not looking back.
Right. Wow. What a story. And you're so right that for so many of us, when we're in that moment, oftentimes we forget that we actually have a choice, right? And this also just goes back to even, with my work of money coaching and financial coaching, not only I'm helping clients with the doing of managing their finances and looking their budgets and looking at how they're planning their financial life. But a more and more, a bigger part of my work is really supporting clients to start looking more inwards, like to grow themselves as a person so that I have more capacity to do whatever I want to do. I think that's what you did in that moment, is realizing I have a choice and it's really up to me. And so, wow. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that story. So when you were in the Air Force, again, I wanted to go back to the self-image, theme here, because again, it's got to be a very tough, strenuous environment, and again, be surrounded by big, bulky guys. How did you see yourself in that environment? And what, if you had to look back and say, what were the maybe one or two things that I did right or that helped me to achieve the level of success that I did achieve? Because from what I understand, becoming a commander-in-chief is not a small thing, right? So how did you get to that point, being among all these, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of male colleagues, and yes, I would love to hear that journey.
Well, the journey was incredible. One, and I tell this to people, right? Sometimes as women, we say, I'm working in a very male-dominated world, and males have their own language, and they do. Did I face men that did not believe in me? Absolutely. Did I face men that wanted me to fail so they could say, I knew she couldn't make it? Of course. But this is the deal. This is what, two things. I had the persistence, I had the faith, I had the belief in me that it didn't matter what was put in front of me. I was going to do it. I was going to excel at it. And I was not going to leave anyone behind. No one is left behind. And so that was my driving force. But me wanting to do all that, not enough, right? I tell people, doing a great job, awesome, but not enough. Not enough. I needed people with the authority, and I needed people with the control to support me. So I always celebrate those men in my military journey that saw someone like me that didn't think like them, didn't look like them, but they saw something in me that they gave me. So the Air Force gave me an opportunity, but then leadership within the Air Force gave me an opportunity because they saw how much I was working, how much I was willing to do, how much I was willing to sacrifice. So it was a combination. It wasn't just Ericka Kelly doing it. It was a combination of being able to push through the BS
Mhm,
and
mhm,
hold on to the goodness
mhm,
and don't allow circumstances
mhm.
circumstances to dictate where I wanted to go.
Yeah. And that really just reinforces the idea of it's almost like lately in my mind, like everything in life is a circular motion. And so that um, because for many people, if they don't feel confident about themselves, if they see themselves as less than or very small, whether it's in money or maybe something else, then they may just kind of give up and say, well, it's never going to work anyway. And so in your particular scenario, it would have been that, you can just say, yeah, well, this is kind of a male dominated world. I'm this petite little woman, like, you know, you not making it almost seems like that's the reasonable expectation. And so we give into that narrative. What you did is really the flip side is it doesn't matter what the circumstances. I know what I want to achieve. And then in that way, the universe supported you with people who also supported you in your particular circumstance. So it is really like a two-way where you putting your best and then also being able to receive what universe gives back to you in ways of support from others. Sounds like.
And fight, it's so weird. Sometimes people say, if I'm in a military environment, they go, Chief, what made you keep going? I tell them, I said, I had to get my own self out of the way,
Mm,
right? I
mm,
had to get those self-limiting beliefs out of the way
yeah.
because I was holding on to my goal. My goal never changed, Yulin, right?
Mm,
The goal was right there. Now, plans changed all the time,
mhm,
and how things happen changed, but the goal didn't.
mhm,
So I tell people, right? It's like, okay, I see you, right? Whatever is it that we want, I see you.
mhm,
And then we start going towards it, and something happens. Some of us, you know, and I went through it, but some of us keep getting up and trying to do the same thing in this. No, you're going to be hit every single time you try to do something that didn't work before. Don't force it. But I
mhm,
tell people we need to shift, we need to pivot, we
mhm,
need to regroup. Sometimes finances break us
mhm,
depending on the decision that we make. We're at the bottom.
mhm,
And guess what? I don't want to say that it's okay. I want to say that I've been there, and that is a reality.
mhm,
That's a fact.
mhm, mhm,
And sometimes people go, well, you just need to get up and keep going.
mhm, mhm.
And I say, well, maybe, but sometimes you just need to stay on the ground, fetal position for a little while
Yeah,
to say, what just happened to me?
right,
How come I'm here?
right, right,
And then be able to, can I move this arm?
right.
Can I grab onto something? Can I get up?
Mhm,
Can
mhm,
I let go
mhm,
and have balance
mhm, mhm.
and regain composure and regain a financial stability and regain a self-esteem stability, a confidence
Right,
stability?
right,
They all
right.
go together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought this up because and what you just said reminded me of this one word that keeps coming into my mind lately. And I go through my phases in life where there's a word that gets stuck in my head, and that seems to be the theme. And lately the word is discernment.
Mm.
And to me, that's part of, in my coaching, I talk about helping women to become money savvy. But what does that really mean? Like, how do you become money savvy? And a big part of that is learning about discernment. And, like you said, so sometimes it's the brute force doesn't necessarily get you, where you want to go. Sometimes you have to take a step back in order to move forward.
That's
Sometimes
right.
you just need to stop and regroup and
And
and then
right?
and then shift and move. And like a perfect example would be, sometimes I talk to women and they say they're really wanting to work on their finances, and so they want to work with me. At the end they say, oh, but I have to be, they use this word, and I think in their subconscious mind that it's a word that what resonates with me, that I would approve, which is, I need to be responsible with my money.
Mhm.
So I'm going to wait until I have more money, or I have until blah, blah, blah. But this is where our brain plays the trick on us. And this is where I, say, how you would apply a discernment is to be able to distinguish what is an expense and what is an investment. And an expense is something that you spend on something that once it's over, it's over. An investment is actually you get something in return. And so when you work on your finances, it's never about working on your money. It's also about working on yourself, right? And I think you probably experience that. And this is probably what I like to shift now is, in your executive coaching, you probably experience, seeing that too, that, this whole concept of investing in yourself, whatever you're trying to achieve in a career, at a corporate or whatever, you have to invest in yourself first to grow yourself, to have more capacity to receive and to retain whatever you want to achieve. So share with us, how does your kind of your Air Force experience, your life experience, how does that help you and show up now in your executive coaching? And who are your typical clients that you help now?
The way that all my worlds connect, and now they're all into my coaching business, is people. I early on knew that people were my thing, and that's my purpose in life.
Mm.
I talk to people about having jobs, having careers, or having purpose. And I also talk to people about being successful versus being significant. Because once you touch significance, once you taste significance, success becomes secondary. So as a coach, I'm living my purpose. As a coach, I feel and I am significant to the people that I help. What does a client for me looks like? Well, most of the time, they are either solopreneurs, entrepreneurs that are fighting the same self-limiting beliefs that you and I have been talking about this. And finances, my dear friend, is one of them. Right? Is one of them, because what relationship do you and I have with money?
Oh,
And
God. Yeah.
right? And the minute we know the relationship we have with money, then we can move forward. But most of the time, in my coaching at an executive level with C-suiters, most of the time is to allow that executive to connect, not just communicate with people, but to truly connect at a human level, to team building, to understand personalities, to understand emotional intelligence.
So it's more of the leadership coaching.
Yes, yes. With the group of executives in whatever organization I coach or help with. But I do want to go back to what you said about the financial piece of the people that come to you as a financial coach, and how they say, let me think about it. Right. And I'm sure that you just smile inside, because everyone, we are so good at sabotaging ourselves.
Yep.
We are so good. And I want to go back to something else that you said earlier. We our brain, when we are sabotaging ourselves, we don't see it because we come up with the most logical. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
It
Well,
would have been right. It would have
yeah.
been really easy for me to say I'm an immigrant, so I don't want to learn English. English is too hard because I'm an immigrant. The military is not my path because I'm too small. I'm not going to become a businesswoman because I have an accent. And man, all those excuses are perfect. You know why?
Right.
Because they're
Right.
true.
Yeah. Well, you know, the reason I brought it up, that example, is because what you said earlier, it's like, I need to get myself out of the way, right?
Yes,
Because when you said that, you know, these examples like that came to my mind, it's like, yeah, like I see so many, and I'm sure again, you know, I do that too in other, you know, scenarios as well in my own life. And that's why, you know, honestly think all of us, we need coaches in one area or another in our life, because again, we're all sharing the same human experiences. And that is, we are very good at self-sabotaging ourselves. And until you really get help and get somebody to help you look from a third angle, like from as a third person from outside in, you know, to give us a different perspective, we can get so myopic and also just give ourselves all kinds of reasons, you know, stories, right? So we continue to write the stories why I can't do certain things. So having gone through what you've gone through, which is a very, you know, rich life experience, what advice would you give to women who, you know, I see a lot, which is they see themselves very small when it comes to money. I see this all the time. You know, I could be talking to them. We could be talking about parenting. We could be talking about their, you know, their talent, the work that they do. We could be talking about a lot of different things, you know, their kids. But as soon as we talk about money, the tone in their voice change, the posture, the body language changes. And then all of it just to show that they feel really small inside.
Mm.
So what advice would you give to those women to help them really kind of break through all of those layers of traps and, you know, whatever else we put on ourselves to, you know, like somebody like you know, being an immigrant, being a petite woman, going to Air Force, a men's world, being in the criminal justice world, and now doing executive coaching, like what advice would you give those women so that they can also get out there and really step into their own power?
Yeah, I think that the first step that all of us need to be very aware of is to give, as women, give ourselves grace.
Mm,
Give ourselves grace and be able to separate yourself enough from the situation. Let's say a financial situation, separate yourself from that situation and look at it. Look at it. And then analyze, what is the relationship? And I know that it sounds weird, but what is the relationship you have with money?
mhm,
Do you think that money is energy that just flows? Do you think that money is to hold on to?
mm,
Because the little that comes, you got to hold on to?
mhm,
Or do you think that money is for somebody else?
mhm.
Those people over there are the ones that
Yeah.
have the money.
Oh yeah, those rich people.
And then we have this attitude about those rich people,
Right,
right?
right,
But
exactly.
but at the same time, we have a conflict,
Right,
ladies,
right,
because oh, those people over there, they're rich people over there. But don't we want to be rich?
right,
Right?
right.
So how do we fix that conflict?
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah. Because sometimes a financial situation, let's say a poor financial situation, carries a little bit of shame,
mhm. There's a lot of
uh,
shame for women
a
because
lot of bit of secrets.
yeah.
I want a nice dress because I want to impress whoever.
Mhm,
and I hide, right? It's like a little blanket. I hide that financially I'm not doing that well.
Mm-hmm.
So the advice is give yourself grace.
Mm-hmm.
Step out of the picture, step out of the emotional picture and look at it and truly see what relationship you have with money. Because the minute you know what relationship you have with money, then you can move forward. Yulin, you as a money, right? It's like money, a money coach. You can see that the minute people, and I want to go back to what you said about cost versus investment. How much is a few sessions with you are going to cost me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not going to cost you anything because this is an investment for the rest of your life.
Right.
So in reality, a few sessions with me, a few sessions with you is going to give someone the potential of making millions.
Right.
Is the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. And I live the scarcity of I come from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to hold on to the little I had. But when we're like this, holding on to the little we have, nothing comes in.
Yeah. We're not receiving. We're not
We're not
receiving.
receiving. We're just no. Like we're like this.
Right.
So the minute we take a deep breath, we relax, and we again understand the relationship with money. And if it's not a healthy one with someone like you, Yulin, we relax and we open.
Right.
Then that energy flows, and then we find success, and then we move to significance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And this is something that I work with my clients, and I usually talk about the analogy of a bowl, that we are all born with a bowl. And the size of that bowl is your capacity to receive the amount of money that you will have in your lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want more money, you need to increase the size of your bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your bowl is this little,
Like
you can do all the law of attraction you want. You can be very successful in attracting. They will come, but then what happens?
yeah,
You overflow your small bowl, and
yeah,
it's one hand in and one hand out. And you wonder why majority of the people who win lotteries, they lose it within 3 to 5 years, right? So it's not just about law of attraction. It's also about growing yourself so you can actually receive more, but also retain more.
yes, 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 yes. Even in the book, Think and Grow Rich,
Mm-hmm.
it says that you're not going to get what you're attracting
Mm-hmm.
until you believe, meaning that you're making that ball bigger until
Mm-hmm.
you believe that you're worthy of getting it.
Right. Well, thank you so, so much. I really, really enjoy our conversation, and I have a feeling we can sit around, the fireplace and keep chatting forever. But I really, really appreciate you coming on the show. Where can people find you if they're interested in what you're doing?
Yes, of course. Thank you. The easiest way is to go to my website, Ericka Kelly Enterprises.com. And guess what? Just scroll all the way, ignore the video, ignore the photos, go all the way to the bottom, sign up for my daily leadership email. I send a leadership message every single day.
That's great. That's great. And the way when you said this, I'm thinking leadership doesn't have to be I'm a CEO, I'm a leader. Like we are leading in so many different areas of life, right? So every one of us is a leader in one way or the other.
Absolutely, my dear. Leadership doesn't have a title,
Mm.
does not have a rank, and does not have a position.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you again. I hope that our listeners and all these women watching out there, they get something out of our conversation and learn some wisdom and lessons from your life experiences. So thank you again.
Yulin, thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you for tuning in to the Women and Money Empowerment Show. If you ever have doubt for moments about yourself, your capability, or your worthiness, please remember to keep coming back to these stories and lean in. Draw the wisdom and strength from these incredible women and know that you also have what it takes to live a fulfilling life. Until next time, have a fabulous day.